Hello, everybody. This is JJ Hardy with Victory Leadership Coaching, streaming leadership training live. Today, I have a couple guests here, other than Hannah. Though it's always wonderful to have Hannah here. We have Pat Patterson. We have Hank, which sometimes goes by the General, and then we have Hannah. I'll let them do an introduction after I introduce the topic here, but. Yeah, without further ado, let's go ahead and get started. So today's topic, we're going to talk about setting and managing expectations. So we're all leaders here in positions where we could be influential to others. But this also works, everything leadership works outside of the workplace. It also works in your home. And I'm going to mute my computer. Don't you love live calls? You can't hide a thing. My phone, rather. Okay. And so setting and managing expectations. So I will go ahead and take it a step back and refer to what that means when you're in a position of a leadership position in the workplace. And then we'll do a discussion on what that could look like if you all want to see what that applies, how that applies when you're not in the workplace. So this starts right when an employee. There are two situations. One, it starts right when an employee comes into the organization for the first time, or when you move into an organization for the first time and you're given a bunch of employees. The initial conversation you have, other than all the onboarding crap that you have to do with all the HR and blah, 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 this, that, and the other thing, the other stuff that's really, really important in your role to let them know is it's based off of the definition of leadership, which is providing purpose, direction, and motivation while operating to accomplish the mission and improve the organization. So you got to let them know what their role is in the company and why it's important to the company. And, it's going to give them a sense of, purpose. Just like I said, it's purpose, direction, and motivation. But when people understand why they are there, everything after that is so much more simple to understand because it all relates to the overall mission and then their role within that overall mission, which is their why. Direction, that's the job. You have to give an in-depth description of the duties that they'll be doing and how they have to accomplish those things. It's integral. And the managing expectations is what comes next. And the motivation it's the personal part of the whole process. And that's where you're talking to them about what you mean to the organization, letting them know that they're going to be cared for. This is your support structure. If you're obviously not going to be the only person that they communicate with in the organization. So letting them know when they have complaints, who all they can go to. If you have any therapists in the workplace, that's another place. If you have other resources, this is where you share all of that stuff. That way it's not just their purpose in the organization and their duty description and what they do for their job, but also, how they receive all of that additional support. When you're managing those expectations, it should be a system. Now, there are some roles like Hannah where she's in a financial company where it's not so defined because you're working with a bunch of other independent contractors. But it's still important to make sure that you have regular follow-up. They should know when that follow-up is going to be. I mean, if you all talk every Monday morning, which I know that they have regular calls for their organization, but they should know one-on-one when you're going to talk to them as well, because you got to nurture those relationships just as you would if you were in a business or whatever. Now, in addition to that, you should make it a system when you're talking to them as well, because a counseling, performance review, whatever, you should talk about three things when you have those private conversations. You should ask them what their goals are for the organization, let them know where they're strong and where they're weak, and then talk about how you can help them with their goals and help them with those areas that are weak and kind of help them understand where to sustain. And then there's an added step. That's where you ask for their feedback. Hey, how am I doing as a leader? How am I showing up for you? What can I do better for you and help you in your role within this organization? And if you need any further support, my door is always open. That's basically the conversation starter right there. And I've talked for 6 minutes already, so I'm going to quit my yapping. I'm going to let you all introduce yourselves on the call, and then we'll go through and start the actual discussion. So, Pat, you're the first person on my screen. You want to give an introduction and tell a little bit about yourself?
My name's James Patterson. I go by Pat because the military screwed me up. Right now, I am in charge of a EMS service and another division that does ground transport for non-emergency trips and organ transplants. I have about 36 people underneath me, and just here to learn.
Excellent. Thank you, Pat. Hannah?
I've been on this call several times. I'm Hannah Prince, and I'm a financial coach, and I just love listening to what JJ has to teach. I'm new at the whole leadership thing, and so I'm just here to learn too.
Holy cow, I've got her fooled. Hank, what about you, man?
So my official name is Harold, but everyone calls me Hank. Just for the way we met, I had a story about being touted as a general for some shipping, so I got that nickname as well. I'm actually a like a senior sales person in IT tech and varying business, but I'm in a process of transitioning to my own SEO agency, which I'm hoping I'll be full time by New Year's, give or take a little bit. So that's kind of what it is. And yeah, I definitely resonated and connected with JJ and a few people in our other group. And yeah, I'm looking forward to learning because it's the funniest thing. I can't really put the points together, but you have that thought that you know everything, and then you meet someone and you learn something else. You go, maybe I should learn a little more, like just a little bit, So I think when we get out of our own way, so I'm happy to be here and looking forward to learning.
Well, we should all be learning and growing all the time. What do they say? When you stop moving, you die. So let's keep on moving forward. I love it.
Sure.
So does anybody have any thoughts about the topic today that they would like to maybe ask questions or share?
Can I throw a curveball right away, but a soft one?
Please do. Hey, play Stump the Chump. Let's do it.
So no, it's just my personality. It's not like whenever someone says A, I just say B. I can't help it. But I was just thinking what you were saying is so true about the businesses. About I've been in corporations. This is your support. This is your credit department. You're released. Like you have all that. But one of the thoughts that came up was right now, everyone I speak to, most of the people I speak to, like yourself, we're all sort of building our own agencies or businesses. And I was just thinking, like, one of my goals, within the new year is to maybe have a couple of virtual assistants, right? And some of the businesses are hiring, management personnel or sales, and these people are in different locations. So the question to sort of the curve is like, would that be the same management, same leadership, or would be it's a new era? Like, would it be a little bit different because we're not like going into the office and, Sally put her coffee on my desk and I don't like that. And, that kind of stuff,
I'm glad you said that because, to a certain extent that applies to everybody on this call. So when you are dealing with either a hybrid or an all remote environment, it's still extremely important to make sure you're intentional with communication and follow-up. When you're dealing with people day to day and you're in a hard stand location like a warehouse or a corporate environment or whatever the case may be, you have that opportunity just to step up out of your office, walk down the hallway or walk on the warehouse floor and have a conversation.
Right.
when you're hybrid or you're remote, you can't always do that. So it's important to make sure that you are scheduling time, whatever that looks like, whether it's daily or weekly, to make sure you're checking in. And especially in the hybrid or remote environment, you gotta have a reporting structure, because otherwise you just have this person that's somewhere, the Philippines, 100 miles away, an hour away, whatever, and you have no idea what they're accomplishing. So making sure you're still setting those goals and those very deliberate and clear expectations up front, and then having that regular follow-up is probably even more important, because otherwise they could say, I'm doing the best I can, but then you're not going anywhere. It's like you're on a treadmill, because you're moving super fast, but you're not actually going anywhere but in place. So you need those clear expectations set. So how that would apply to somebody who is hiring those people, make sure you can identify those specific roles before you just say, I need a virtual assistant. If you don't know what you're going to have them doing, then they're going to jump into your organization, however small it may be, and they're going to be flying by the seat of their pants because you're flying by the seat of your pants. So identifying those roles.
Yeah, they a lot of right now, a lot of the, just going on what you're saying, a lot of the people I speak to, like ourselves, they're having virtual assistants do the outreach, the marketing to set the appointments. So it brings up a thought that you probably need some software, some tracking, just to see what hours or how many, actual bits of work they're doing, or some kind of, so you don't have to like micromanage them, but you have it in place, and 3 months down the road, they haven't done anything. You probably have an idea, something like that, where you're going or so.
Sure. Yeah. I know there are many types of software that are out there that would allow you to have them sign in when they start and then log out when they finish. There's ADP. There's, I don't know. I could probably go on Google right now and pull up about 5 or 6 of them. But
for sure.
I agree. Tracking is important, especially I know most virtual assistants, they charge an hourly rate for their services. And if you're paying them hourly, they could say, I've been here for 8 hours and realistically been there for 2. Though you have to trust somebody, you also have to trust that there are people out there that aren't extremely honest. So you want to make sure that you're getting your value. And I know that the companies that represent those individuals that you hire on as virtual assistants will hold them accountable if they're not, and get you somebody else if they're not cutting the mustard. But you got to make sure that you're doing your due diligence. I think people would expect that level of tracking and expectation.
Yeah, I agree. I was told that you don't have to, there are cameras there are softwares that screencast all their moves and record the time they're in and out and everything. But I think if you've qualified someone, you give them the trust. But again, after like 30, 45 days, if nothing happened, then you got to go and probably dig in. So yeah, that's great stuff. Thank you.
Yeah. Evaluation criteria as well. You if you don't understand how to evaluate their performance, then you're selling them short and selling yourself short.
100%.
Yeah. And Hannah, you've gone off of mute a couple of times like you're going to say something. What's up?
Oh, no. I just had a cat issue. I was trying to keep it quiet.
Oh. What about you, Pat? You have anything to share on that topic? No?
Not right now.
Okay.
I have one thing. I don't think anyone's done this before. Maybe you and I would have to search, but I think there's a whole ocean. You could be like one of the only guys that has a specific, how to manage a virtual company. I haven't seen anything like that. Have you? That's incredible. Like, that would be amazing. Like how to lead from somewhere else or something like that,
Well, because of certain things that have come up in a couple different companies that I've been working with lately. I am going to be adding to my website. So not it's virtual and non-virtual, but organizational strategy is going to be a big thing that I'm going to help people work on. I have from my military experience, I have a highly operational background. Creating systems and processes is something that I've been doing for. I raised my right hand 23 years ago, and
Wow.
I've been a part of an operational background ever since then. I mean, even going into my civilian work, I did operations type stuff. So I would be selling myself short and keeping others, holding back things that could make other businesses successful. If I don't offer that, I think that since people have been asking about that and I've been offering that anyway, that I need to make sure that I'm adding that to my service set. So thank you, Hank, for saying that. I do think that in 2024, that's going to be one of my primary offerings, especially for small growing businesses.
I'm in agreement. I'm already seeing, like, you have somebody, they're growing a business. There's 4 or 5 different people, different locations. Something slips. You have to get like that. Wow. Like, wow. you know?
Yeah, and I love it. So I know over in the other group where half of us met, we talked a little bit about that stuff, but it seems like the other people that would join on those calls that had a military background, we all had so much to say about the operational side. Why?
Great.
Because we lived it.
Yeah.
I mean, we didn't just live it. We started it sometimes at midnight, and we would do it until 11 p.m. the in the day, and we would do it sometimes for multiple days at a time, and for years and years and years. And I mean, if that's an offering that I can help people with, my goodness, I could see how much frustration there is when you don't have somebody that's willing to step up and say, I can help you solve this problem.
I think you're going to find a lot of business in 2024.
Well,
Something tells me.
I need your help.
I could see like thousands of guys like, okay, I set it all up, but things are missing. Yeah. I think that's going to be something.
Well, I'm a Christian, so I always bring God into it, right? So I mean, I feel like lately in the past month or two, I've just had people reaching out to me, and they're talking about things that they're clear in my mind. And why else does that happen? So I think you're right, and it's because I care so much about helping people with their problems. But I'm not. This call's not about me, man. This call is about setting and managing expectations.
So you said realistic ones, right?
Realistic.
So not to hijack, guys, but interrupt me when you're out. So I'm setting some like financial outreach goals and financial and everything. And then I spoke with a professional just this morning, and I had some great numbers. He says you got to dial it back a little because there's clients that come on, they don't stay forever. There's like different things. So can you share a little bit about realistic expectations? Because I think a lot of us, like, oh, we're going to get the course, we're going to go in and we're going to crush it. And reality is, like, you will get clients, but I've had the experience too where a certain percentage will stick, but some will bounce off a little bit.
So there are 2 approaches to that. When you are making a position for somebody, or if you're starting anything on your own, and you can use this in your family life if you're getting ready to plan for a vacation, or you could use this in your business. One thing you can do is with every goal that you set for yourself or for your organization, make sure you create a certain amount of action items. So the goal is the what. I want to scale my business to 20,000 a month by the end of 2024. But the action items are the how. What can I do in the first 30 days, action-wise, to make that happen? What can I do in 60 days, 90 days? There are so many things, but SMART goals. Have you ever heard of SMART goals?
Yeah.
Specific,
Specific,
measurable,
measured, time, no, achievable, something in time. Yeah. Yeah.
I can send everybody on this call a worksheet. I'm happy to do it.
All right.
Specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time bound.
Right.
So when
Exactly.
you're creating each action item, treat it as an overall goal. I mean, is it realistic for me to do? If it's not, why not? If it is, why? I mean, make sure you're really taking the time to do in-depth analysis on these things, because obviously you have to shoot for the moon, but sometimes the moon is too far and you have to understand why. If you have to call somebody to help you with those goals, that's something. If you can identify these things on your own just by picking up the phone and calling a few people, that's another thing. But just making sure that you're taking the time, especially if you're starting a new venture, to do it. But on the other side of that, I understand what your coach is telling you. On the other side of that, I don't normally curse on these things, but how the hell do you know if you don't go out there and try and fail a little bit?
Right.
You don't learn without failure. I use this analogy all the time. When we were a baby, we fell on our behind probably 100 times before we were able to take one step every time we stood up. So what makes anything in our life any different than that? We have to try and fail before we can succeed. How else do we learn what works and what doesn't? But you have to not let that discourage you, and look at those as opportunities to get better. And when you do that, you're looking at these failures as a way to improve. And the way you do that is by, I always use an AAR example. We had something called AARs when I was on active duty, and I still use these to this day for almost everything that I do. And you look at what went right, you look at what went wrong, you look at how you can improve, and you write all this down. I mean, you make a list of all of these things, and then you figure out, of the things that went right, what do you want to sustain? What do you want to keep on doing within that? Because if you're trying and failing all the time and you're not changing the way you do things, you just keep on falling on your behind every time you try to stand up, then chances are you're going to keep on falling on your behind every time you stand up. You have to understand what you're doing wrong and why it's wrong, and figure out what to do differently.
Yeah, you have to be open to that. But yes, 100%. 100%.
So many people have this fear of failure, and I understand it's justified, especially when you have some financial skin in the game. But if you don't fail, you're not going to learn.
100%. 100%.
Hard lessons are not called easy lessons. They're hard for a reason.
Yes.
But,
Good stuff. Thank you.
yeah, I mean, you just got to get your mind right before you go into anything. When you're making changes in your current position at a business that you're working within, or no matter what you do, change is not gonna go through perfectly. And by the way, plans, when you make the plans, even if you have all the action items laid out, you have a schedule of when you're going to do things, that plan, Murphy gets involved with every single time.
Yeah. The minute you decide, he shows up.
Murphy shows up. So
Yeah.
there's going to be a percentage of failure every single time you try something new. And when you're a manager or a director or whatever within an organization, you're always going to have, on average, about 75% of your employees that are just wanting to do the right thing every day. But then you're going to have those few people that are like, well, here, I'm collecting a paycheck. And you got to nurture those people and figure out whether they need to stay or go, or if you can even help them. But so there's failure in everything you do. You have to embrace that idea. Otherwise, success is going to come at a much slower rate, or if it does at all. I mean, I know people in my life that are still stuck in the past, and they're stuck in the past because they're just so bogged down by the fact that this didn't work or that didn't work. Well, I always tell them, who cares? It didn't work. So
Try something new.
try something new. Figure out how you can tweak it, or maybe go a completely different route. There's no such thing as a right or wrong answer unless it's illegal or immoral sort of a thing. I mean, figure out how to adjust your plans and go out and tackle that crap again. That's the only way you're going to have success.
Good stuff. Good stuff.
Man, we took that conversation to a completely different place.
Thank you.
Thanks, Hank. Thanks, Hank.
My pleasure. Sorry. I had questions.
Yeah, no, I think that's great. And going into a new venture, you have to think about those things because you're not the only one. So, I mean, I've gone through that. I spent 8 months, but I went out, I stopped working at my job, and then I went out there and I just tackled it. And I had to figure out how I could provide service that's going to actually benefit other people instead of just do what I want to do. And I fell on my face a lot because I'm a military guy. So I get up from the foxhole and I run. So there is no falling backwards. I fall forward, and I fall forward so hard that I crash.
Similar to how similar to how hockey players learn. Same thing, forward, and eventually you learn maybe if you duck, you won't get hit, something like that.
Yeah. Or in hockey, you just hit back.
Yes, but sometimes you end up in the sin bin. So
The sin bin. I like that. I don't think I've ever heard it called that. I've heard it called the box.
Yeah, that's one of the Canadian terms up here is, you end up in the penalty box, and we have a generic term is the sin bin. So.
Sin bin. Yeah. I'd be happy to be in that sin bin. I think one of the valuable things of being a hockey player is you can just go out there and get all of your frustrations out every single time you're on the ice.
Yes, you can, but you have to watch out. Some of the guys are military boys too, and they can handle themselves. So
Don't threaten me with a good time.
Yes, a good time.
All right. Well, we are cutting up close to a half hour, but we don't have to stop there. If you guys have more questions or more things that you would like to discuss. Oh, I did want to bring something else up because I didn't do something I said I was going to do in the beginning of the call. This also applies to your family. When you have kids, you have a wife, everyone expects certain things, but setting those same expectations at home, if you tell them I'll be home from work at this time every day and you're not, do you think you're going to get in trouble because dinner's been ready for 45 minutes and you're still sitting there at work? It works the same way. When you are so to correct that, you could always, I had to develop this in the military because I thought I would be home the same time every day for a while, and I was sorely mistaken, especially when I became a leader, because my job was to apparently not have much of an outside life, but that's just kind of the way it works. I always let her know, hey, look, call me at a certain time. I'll let you know if I'm going to be home on time or not. But it works the same way. So if for your kids, they want to have boundaries, even though they will fight every single one of them because they want to know what to expect. I don't put ultimatums out there, or at least I try not to, but letting them know what their left and right limitations are for everything. Hey, I love that you love playing video games, but we're gonna, because we don't want you to be stuck in your room all the time. An hour or two a day on the weekends is really where I want you to stay on video games. And then after that, you please do something else, because when you bog yourself down in your room, you end up with depression. And it seems like they talk about depression and negative things in the schools, whether they realize it or not, more than they talk about everything else. And so letting them understand that they don't have to be part of the status quo, that breaks my heart. But anyway, but setting and managing expectations is the same at home, but there's no onboarding there. You have fun when you're younger, you end up pregnant or your spouse ends up pregnant, and you have a kid. You have to figure that crap out. There are plenty of handbooks, but in my opinion, they're all wrong because every kid is different. So, and any man who has a female spouse, I think we could all say the same thing. I wish each individual spouse would write their own handbook, but if they did, it would be lying. And so I guess it really doesn't matter. Yeah. And that's pretty much the same thing, but I wanted to make sure that I put that out there because there are some people that I talk to that they're like, how does this apply outside of work? And since this is a live stream, I wanted to go ahead and do a call out for that. Yeah. And that's leadership.
Well, and it just occurred to me, it can work for clients too. I don't know
Yes.
if everybody has clients like I do, but setting and managing expectations with your clients, because they need to know that you can't always give them everything they want. It's not always good for them. And sometimes, especially in finances, if they're going to, invest, there's risks with that if that's what they want to do. So you just have to be honest from the beginning.
Yep. I agree. And to add a second layer to that, I mean, you're a coach, I'm a coach. I always tell people, hey, look, this process only works if you put in probably more effort than I'm putting in. If you only show up to these calls every week, then you're not going to get the desired result that you're looking for. You have to put in the effort. Just letting them know, and that's everything, by the way. If you're on this call right now, or if you're watching it on Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, whatever, and you think that just listening to this call and then going doing the same thing after you're done, and what your goal was to understand how to set and manage expectations, if you don't apply the things that you hear and learn and all the things that you're trying to do to better yourself, then you're not going to get a different result. You actually have to intentionally make change. And that's not just intentionally showing up to a call. That's intentionally showing up to the call, figuring out what you're going to apply from what you learned, and then going through and actually taking action on what you learned. Otherwise, again, Albert Einstein said it. Insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result. There's no such thing as an easy button on anything. So make sure that you are taking action to make positive change. Otherwise, you're not gonna have any. And with clients, it's important. I tell them that every time. Does anybody have any closing comments that they would like to share with the group before we dip out of here?
That was great. Thank you very, very much. Sorry if I asked too many questions, but I had them. So,
well, the only bad question is one that you didn't ask. So
I've heard that before.
Yeah, I would hope so. Yeah, you have kids, so I hope you tell your kids that.
Yes.
Pat, you have anything that you want to share at the end of the call?
No, sir.
No? Hannah?
Nope.
By the way, Hannah and Hank are experts in their field. I have worked with Hank in the past. When he says guaranteed SEO, if you don't ask him to slow down when he's explaining what he knows, he's going to boggle your brain. He knows so much. And Hannah will get you where you want to be financially if you listen and take action. And Pat's just an awesome guy. He works for an EMS company and those types of things. Unless you're in it, you don't know how stressful it is. And so, thank you for doing what you do, because we need people like you. Otherwise, we just struggle everywhere we are. I'm JJ Hardy, Victory Leadership Coaching. If you enjoy what you're seeing and hearing right now, like, subscribe, repost, comment, for God's sakes. My goodness, keep the conversation going. It doesn't need to stop here. You know, if you're just watching, again, you're not going to get anything out of it if you have a question and you don't ask it. Keep the conversation going. And by the way, I think I will be going through the month of January to continue doing this. But if you want to join us live on these calls and participate in conversation like good old Hank down there did today, then, you know, $60 a month, you get your first call free, and you can join every single time. We do this every Friday. Well, in extreme circumstances, I may not, but for the most part, I always do it every Friday. Thank you, everybody, for watching. JJ Hardy, Victory Leadership Coaching, signing off.